I would have never thought I would have been a founder. When I was young, crypto wasn't even, existed. So, you end up looking back and you're like, how am I a founder of a crypto company?
Welcome back to 40-Minute Mentor, the podcast on a mission to raise aspirations and inspire the next generation of category-defining founders, all in just 40 minutes. Today, we're joined by Adriana Restrepo, the co-founder and COO of the crypto FinTech, Deblock. Before building Deblock, Adriana was COO of Revolut, where she helped build, launch, and expand the business in Europe. Together with former Revolut head of crypto, Jean Meyer, and head of payments, Aaron Beck, as well as ex-head of engineering at Ledger, Mario Aguilas, Adriana is now building Deblock, the world's safest account for seamless management and exchange of crypto and cash, ensuring users truly own their money. Since coming out of stealth, the team has raised an impressive 26 million euros in funding, led by Headline, Hoxton Ventures, Chalfin Ventures, and 20BC. The team has grown to 60 plus people, representing over 12 countries. I can't wait to find out more about Adriana's incredible career, not only as an experienced COO, but also as a founder, and hear more about what the future holds for Deblock. Adriana, welcome to 40-Minute Mentor. It's a real pleasure to have you on the podcast. How are things?
Great. So happy to be here. Honestly, super excited.
Well, we are excited to have you here, and we're going to tell our listeners all about your amazing career story and dive into your business, Deblock, very soon. But before we do that, let's warm you up, if you don't mind, with some quick fire questions. If you can finish the following sentences after me, that would be amazing. So number one, the moment that defined my career was when?
I joined Revolut.
We will definitely come on to Revolut. We'll leave that there for now and dive deeper in a minute. My biggest failure to date is
not having taken risks earlier in my career.
Interesting. We've definitely had that before. Do you know, was there something holding you back from taking those risks?
Yes. And for me, it's a thing that comes back again and again in my career. You need to not be so afraid. I think that's the biggest thing.
Wise words. Awesome. I'm glad you took the plunge to start this business, which we'll come on to shortly. A skill I wish I had mastered earlier is?
Very linked. Again, I think the two are intertwined and show up in my career multiple times, changing industry, going for that role, starting a company. Every single thing is don't be afraid, go.
Yeah. And I think that risk appetite builds. The more time you do it, the more you put yourself out of your comfort zone, and the validation you get from taking those risks, you definitely get more comfortable taking them, don't you? And finally, a life lesson I keep coming back to is?
The biggest one is that you think that things, like worst case scenario, it's all going to go terrible, but it really doesn't. And again, tied up with the risk taking, you think it'll be the end of the world, but we're more resilient than we think we are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you learn that and you really play it out, the different scenarios, you realize that you will bounce back. It'll be okay. Whether that is career, personal, taking business decisions, a project, it's all the same for me.
You're so right. I think we are, by nature, much more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. And often the hardest times or the so-called mistakes or challenges make you stronger, make you more resilient. And often actually life wouldn't be, I don't know, it wouldn't be as fun in a way if you don't go through some hardship, right? And it makes the wins so much better.
Yes, that is very true. Maybe also that you need to celebrate the wins.
Oh, 100%.
Take a minute, celebrate it. Because that's what life is about, those moments. And you'll remember them so fondly.
Well said. Fab. Well, we're going to we'll talk about your time at Revolut. We'll talk about your journey with Deblock. But before we get to there, I'm sure our audience will be intrigued by your kind of early career aspirations and your upbringing. So if you don't mind, I'd love to take you back in time and hear a bit more about the early Adriana. What was life like?
Yeah. So, I'm from Venezuela. I grew up there most of my life. I studied industrial engineering. And when I was in uni, it was a difficult time in Venezuela because there was a lot of political unrest. The economy was tanking. So I had only one objective. I need to get out. And unlike a lot of Venezuelans that have a Spanish grandfather, Italian, whatever, I only had a Venezuelan passport. So I was like, okay, my objective here is I need to leave, find another visa, something, and make my life somewhere else. And I didn't know where that place was. So I guess when I was really, really young, this is going to sound super strange. My dream was to work at Procter & Gamble. I was going to go to study engineering and work in Procter & Gamble. This was my dream. I don't know why at 13, this is what I wanted. Very corporate, because it was the biggest company in Venezuela that represented LATAM. The LATAM headquarters used to be in Venezuela. But as I said, when I got into university, I was like, no, I need to actually get out. So it was, my 20s was a journey to find a visa. My jobs were based on who will sponsor my visa. That took me to US for a bit. I was able to get an H-1B visa there, but I had to wait like 8 months. So then I moved to Colombia and I worked at Accenture, waiting for my visa in the US. Then I finally landed in the US and I had the weirdest job ever. But anyway, they sponsored my visa. So I worked at a company that sold low pressure compressors. It's called blowers under one bar. And they're used in wastewater treatment plants. So very glamorous. You go to a wastewater treatment plant and try and sell a blower. This was my job. Design them, do the base, negotiate motor prices, that kind of thing. Then I was able to move to the UK. So my husband, who was my ex-boyfriend at the time, got a visa here, and the quickest path to citizenship was UK versus US. So I was like, okay, let's go to London. I also loved Europe. I think I'm European at heart. And moved to London with this blower company and got here and said, okay, now we've got this visa. Let me see what I can do differently. Let me find another job. And that landed me in BT, British Telecom, the most British company I've ever worked in. So it was a bit odd journey because I went from like very engineering in a world to then at BT, very British. I had to adapt to the culture. It was real shock, but I learned a lot. It was like an internal consulting team I had joined. And then I jumped to another telco. I jumped to Vodafone. Then I jumped to Barclays and then Revolut, which changed my life. So,
Wow. And I guess there was the kind of needs must to get the visa, and then they're possibly not the companies you grew up dreaming to work for, but clearly the experiences have shaped the leader you are today, and or at least given you some really useful experiences that then took you to Revolut, which everyone listening to this will be well aware of what a unique and exceptional company it is. So tell us more. You spent 3 years there. I think you started in people operations before moving into a COO role. So a real rapid rise to a senior position. Tell us more about Revolut, your highlights, the biggest learnings. That would be awesome to hear.
Yeah, so Revolut changed my life. I used to work in these corporates, as I said, like BT, Vodafone. They're massive companies. And two things never quite clicked with me. One is that in these corporates, what you do is you fix broken things. Oh, this process is broken, go fix. Oh, this is like, how can we find efficiencies, So you fix broken things. And second is everything is really slow. And the feedback I would always get is, Adriana, you're going too fast. You need to bring people on the journey. You wanted to convince all these 100 people that you want to do this one small thing. And it was really frustrating for me. So when I joined Revolut, because they reached out and actually had applied a year before and they rejected me. And then they reached out, which was odd, but whatever. I'm like, I'll take it. I love that. I was a customer really early on. I love to travel. Husband loves to travel. So we had stumbled onto Revolut and I thought it was an amazing product. So I joined and I wasn't getting the same feedback. People were telling me you need to go faster. I was like, oh my God, this is the opposite of what I had heard. And I love it. But yeah, I mean, I joined, it was right after they had the 1.7 billion, kind of unicorn fundraise. So right before the 5, we were like 1,500 people or something. It was a bit, disorganized. A lot of processes were starting to be embedded. And I was in the people team and the people operations team at the beginning and through COVID, which was also quite challenging, right? Having to go fully remote, right? Shipping laptops, monitors, dealing with a lot of complexity, having to let go of people. It was very complex during COVID times. And then after COVID, I really wanted to do something different. And the person I had worked with at People he was Lithuanian, so he was now working on the Lithuania Bank, which was this really small thing right after Brexit. Oh, we got, these kind of entity here. We've got European customers here. And he said, oh, Diana, this is quite small. why don't you come along and help us put some processes in place, right? Because that's my thing. I'm an industrial engineer. I studied processes. I love a good process. I was like, sure, I'll join. And it was a change. I hadn't had that exposure. And then really quickly, I was like, guys, like, let's expand the bank license and launch it. So I was launching the bank. We're trying to get local IBANs, so getting regulators to approve our branches across all of Europe. So having those conversations and really started to work with the product teams to make the product better and more local. And absolutely loved it because I went from the corporate world of fix broken things to now you're building things that don't exist. You're building them from scratch. And I absolutely loved it. So I was able to go fast and build things, which was incredible. Now, Revolut is not for everybody, but no company is for everybody. And I always say this. And I really love the environment. I love the culture. Not everybody did, and that's okay. But I learned so much. It was honestly what really changed the path and took me to where I am now.
Amazing. What a journey. It's a perfect segue because my next question is going to be about Revolut's culture. It's sort of infamous, kind of a Marmite culture that some thrive and others just would never survive or just wouldn't enjoy it. So can you describe the culture to us and why you think it has enabled the business to scale so rapidly and create such a category defining company? And I'd love to know how that has then impacted your leadership style and how you're building as a founder.
Yeah. So it was a shock when I joined. There was definitely a culture shock, and it took a while to adapt. But I think the way I describe it is it's very output driven. It's very logical. It's very direct. I think the directness a lot of people struggle with, but it's not that it's trying to be mean or it's just straightforward because you have a lot of Eastern European people in the company, and that's just naturally how they communicate. So the communication style, I think, makes it a bit different, at least back then. I think now the company's grown, probably don't get it in every area of the company. But I think the structure is what's helped it grow. So, when I joined is when we introduced the KPIs. I remember working with Nick on that, like, okay, we're going to put KPIs, very quarterly performance reviews, and we really put structure around that. And that just makes it kind of work like you can industrialize all your processes. And when you think about it that way, and you say, I'm going to industrialize everything, KPI setting, product releases, new bets, everything is like a process that you set up. Then you can go much faster because you create playbooks and then you follow the playbook that allows for creativity, but you kind of reuse the knowledge from before and just say, okay, this is how we do it. You try this, and you follow the steps. And I think that's what really enabled the company to grow. The people that struggle with it, I think, is the communication element that can be different, but a lot of people thrive. And now as a founder, I bump into founders all from Revolut. Sometimes it's funny because it's like, you're selling me something and we're on a Slack conversation, we're all from Revolut. So it's like, okay, funny, but I love it. And it's like a shared language that we end up having.
Yeah. And look, we're really seeing that new wave of Revolut Mafia. I don't like the way they call it that. That sounds negative because it's like there's so much talent Revolut and there are so many people like yourself creating incredible businesses that are getting real traction. So it's clearly a really unique experience and an amazing one that I think we will no doubt see some of the great next unicorns and businesses coming out of that unique crop of people. We got to come on to talk about Deblock. Tell us more about where the idea came from and how you decided the time was right to take that big, scary leap into entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So it was a very scary leap. And when I was in the moment, oh my God, I spoke to everyone about it. I was like, and that's why I say about the worst case scenario, like, what if it doesn't work out? Because when I resigned, we had no money, we had nothing. We had 12 slides, words on paper, digital paper. This is all we had. It all came about because, so I was doing all the stuff in the bank, right? Talking to the regulators, getting really good traction. We had launched the bank, got in the branches approved. And then I was asked, hey, Adriana, can you help the crypto guys? They're trying to also get authorizations to launch products, but really struggling. You've spoken to the same regulators, synergy. Like, okay, great. So I started connecting, and John, my co-founder, who was head of crypto at the time, started working with him. It's like, okay, what do you want to launch? Okay, well, this is what the regulation says. What can we get approved and so on? And he is a serial entrepreneur. He had created companies before. His company got acquired by Revolut. And as we were digging through it, is the idea of Deblock kind of came to play because we realized that if we operated in self-custody, like a real wallet, not in custody like Revolut does for crypto, you can do a lot more. So really leverage the benefits of the chain. And we wanted to move towards that direction. Now, we tried to do it internally, but that wasn't the appetite. I think Revolut, although they do a lot of crypto products, their DNA is more in the traditional finance space. And then he's like, Adriana, let's just build it ourselves. I was like, what are you saying? This is crazy. Who's going to give us money? No, people give you money. I was like, oh, God, what are you talking about? So a lot of combos happened because I was doing really well. I really wanted to grow Revolut. Like, there's no reason I would have left to any company. Like, anybody could have come. I would have been, no, I'm loving it here. I'm doing a lot. I have the support of the founders. Why leave? But then it's a bit like you live once, I know it's a bit like YOLO, take the risk. Worst case scenario, you do something else. And yeah, I resigned, brought along Aaron, who is my other co-founder. We had worked at Revolut for 2 years. He was running all of payments. We were working really closely together. Mario, who had then moved at Ledger, he came around as well. And we quit, started pitching to VCs, and then got money and started Deblock. So yeah, it was a really crazy time. I would have never thought I would have been a founder. When I was young, crypto wasn't even, existed. So, you end up looking back and you're like, how am I a founder of a crypto company? Anyway, life.
Well, this is amazing. It's the rich tapestry of life. It's taken you in so many different directions, but I think clearly that Revolut experience was so formative, and then it brought you together with these unique people at a unique moment in time to go into this relatively new area and build something really, really exciting. So for the non-crypto experts, and I count myself as one of those, but anyone in our audience that maybe is skeptical or just not as knowledgeable, can you explain a bit more about how Deblock works and the broader kind of value proposition?
Yeah. So what we've been building is, in its core, is a bank account or current account, right? And all the features that go with it. So you get your own account details, your Visa card, debit card, and so on, and the wallet. And the wallet is a self-custody wallet. So you own the wallet, it's on-chain, it's a real wallet. But the experience is that you don't feel it. It's not like when you download MetaMask and you have to remember the seed phrase, none of this. And what we want to do is really bridge traditional Web2 or traditional finance with the chain. And the way we're approaching every single feature, we look at it and say, what is the fastest, cheapest way of us being able to offer this to the customer? Is it traditional finance? Let's do that. Is it on chain? Let's do that. So for every single feature, we ask ourselves that question. So we want to offer you payments within Europe. Fastest way is SEPA. None of this on-chain stablecoin. No. SEPA is the cheapest, fastest way for you to do a payment within Europe. Let's say earn. You want to earn. Staking, DeFi, but in a way that you don't even notice it. That is the cheapest, fastest way. So we're just combining things and wanting to provide a full banking experience, but using the best where it makes sense. And that is really what Deblock is about. So it's targeted at retail. We're operating across Europe, and we want to offer the best banking experience, whether that is some traditional finance or on-chain. It doesn't really matter. We just want to offer the best, cheapest, fastest way of doing it.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. It sounds really awesome. You mentioned the kind of shared language that you have with Revolut people. And so I'd imagine co-founding a business with other Revolut alumni has made the sort of building journey go maybe a bit smoother or just sort of faster because of just those maybe shared ways of working. Do you mind talking to us a bit about those dynamics and how important you feel that shared history has been as part of this founding journey?
Yeah, absolutely. It's helped because the values are very similar. So it's all about going fast. It's all about execution. And that's something I learned at Revolut. I think anybody that's survived at Revolut has learned that it all boils down to execution. And that's what really has allowed us to get to where we are today. You can have all the most beautiful ideas. You can talk beautifully, do a presentation, but get it done. In Revolut, they say, get shit done. For us, it's like speed. You need to just execute. And yeah, we have a big part of our team is also ex-Revolut. And it's just so much easier because everybody has that mindset. So we need licenses, we need to get it done. We need a bank, we call all the banks in the world, just get it done. So for every single thing, we trust each other that we're going to approach it in a similar way, like a playbook, and move forward quickly.
This episode is sponsored by Foundation Partners, part of the Amplified Group family. Foundation Partners is reinventing how ambitious early-stage companies access people and talent support. Typically, when it comes to people and talent, founders take one or two routes. They try to manage it all themselves, which comes with huge opportunity costs compared to focusing on product or go-to-market, or they hire a generalist, expected to cover everything from culture to recruitment to performance. Foundation Partners offers a more impactful alternative, a fully flexible, fractional people and talent team with specialist skill sets and hands-on delivery that starts driving impact in just 2 weeks. So if you're building something ambitious and want the right people and talent support behind you, don't go it alone. As a 40-Minute Mentor listener, you can book a free 1-hour advisory call with a managing partner worth £500. Just head to www.foundationpartners.co.uk/contact and mention this podcast. Now, back to today's 40-Minute Mentor.
Co-founder dynamics is an interesting thing, isn't it? We see examples where it just doesn't work. We see, the famous co-founders that build together for decades and build something really meaningful. You seem to be on something really special. So for anyone that's listening to this, that maybe starting a new venture and going out there looking for a co-founder, do you have any advice or any particular thoughts when it comes to sort of those different dynamics and traits and how to get the best out of each other?
I think the most important thing is that the skills need to be complementary. That's how you make it work. We're lucky that between the four, we're very complementary. So there's very little overlap so that you can work together nicely, but at the same time, you go very fast. Because I really respect single founders. I think it's very difficult because when you run a business, you have so many areas you need to look at, and nobody is good at all of them. So then if you don't find good people that you trust to be able to delegate that, it can be quite stressful, right? And everything from onboarding an employee to getting, a bank account to audit to the product to marketing, like it's so many areas that you need to look at, that the fact that we're four and we're complementary means that everybody's looking at an area. So I'm focused on ops, I'm focused on our licensing and regulatory engagements. Mario's looking at our IT and all technology and all the engineers. We just divide and conquer, and that allows us to go really fast. So I'd say get somebody that complements you, because if not, you're going to fight because you're like just overlapping.
Yeah. Yeah. No, great advice. Yeah, great advice. So important to have like clarity and autonomy and freedom and space to do what you do best. Hopefully that complements the other person and magic can happen. I'd love to take you back to the early days of Deblock. What were some of those what were the toughest days you had to face, some of the scrappier challenges you had to overcome, and any, I guess, reflections or learnings from that sort of early stage of building? Because our audience will include a number of founders at the beginning of the journey. So it'd be nice to show them that even the fastest growing companies go through these painful moments and overcome them.
Yes. When you start a company from zero, like you have nothing, like create Slack account, like you start from the beginning, getting a bank account, incorporating the company. So it's a lot of stuff that you need, like an admin list that you start with. For us at the beginning, we had a very existential thing, which was we need our licenses. No license, no product. So getting those approvals. So, today we have an e-money license in France. We are the first MiCA license approval in France. So it took a while getting there, but at the beginning, it was like, okay, we have nothing. We need to go to a regulator and convince them that we're serious people. Please give us a license. We have money, but we can execute this well. And you just don't know. And you're spending money in the meantime. It's like, okay, we need to go live. We need to start acquiring customers. So that was, I think, the toughest moments. In terms of the more scrappy stuff, I like to remind people about celebrating the wins. And I always tell this story about when we started. We found this office. We still have it in Farringdon, and I bought like some desk, like an IKEA sofa. I'm like, okay, guys, we're going cheap. We don't know what's going to happen. We need to really. And I bought the worst bins in the world. I know it's very basic, worst bins. Like the bins, there were these Amazon bins. People hated the bins. Like these bins are really annoying. Can we just get better bins? I was like, no, we're going to do this when we go live. We go live and I buy you new bins. So for a year, the KPI was, how can we go live and I'll get you new bins? It sounds so simple. And then we have this picture of all the new bins that I bought, really nice bins. And everybody like with a picture because we had gone live with a product. And then I was like, here's your present, here are your bins. But it is that like to that level, right? You're starting a company, nothing, right? And you celebrate the wins sometimes in the weirdest ways, but it was important because small company, we don't even have the right bins. But it was the 0 to 1 I had never done before. It was just challenging. I think because again, we were able to divide and conquer. But yeah, the licenses was, I guess, the most stressful bit of it all.
I can imagine. Well, thank you for sharing. I think it's good. There's a bit of group therapy here for anyone else that might be going through some of this pain that we all have to go through in the early days of building a business. Another pain point for a lot of founders is fundraising. You've raised a significant seed round from some top investors. So would love to hear how you approached fundraising, your learnings from that experience, and I guess particularly your advice for anyone listening to this that might be currently going through that seed funding stage and perhaps struggling. We want to give them some encouragement, but also some actionable advice about what you did that really worked for you.
Yeah. So we've done 2 rounds. We did our initial round was when we had nothing. We had, I told you, 12 slides and that was it. And then a second round end of last year where we already had customers, traction, licenses, etc. So they were quite different, both rounds. The first one, it's about, can you execute? So I felt there was a lot about reference checks on us as individuals. And then a bit around, does this idea make sense? Can they get there? But it's really about the people. So that's when I realized, everything you've done in your entire career, it follows you. It's who you are, and they will check that. We were lucky because obviously Revolut network's big and they called half of Revolut asking them about us. But, you need to be resilient in the process. You get a lot of no's. And because you don't have anything, you just have like some slides, it can feel quite personal. So that was surprising because obviously when they say no, it's not because your business is not making money. You have nothing. You say no to you as a person. So you need to be quite resilient to survive that process. I'm not the biggest fan of fundraising, but, it needs to be done. But yeah, and then the second time we did it, we had customers already, we had revenues. So it was slightly different. It was less about what have you done before and more about, do we agree with the vision? Are you growing it? Have you executed? We were lucky because the plan we had given them at pre-seed, we had delivered to the month exactly what we said we were going to do. So we were lucky in that way because we had done it before. So it was like, yes, of course we can do it. So it was more about where you're going to take this company, how does the future look like, and so on. And again, you get a lot of rejection. This is just part of it. So you need to really have a solid network of people, your support group, which is your co-founders, your company, your family, your friends that are with you to get through the process, because somebody will believe in your plan. And it doesn't matter. Maybe it's not the brand you want. Maybe it's not the name you want. But you need to focus on, you want your dream to happen. And who's going to be there with you, support you, find an investor that will really play to your strengths. And then it's sorted.
It's really, really strong advice. Thank you, Adriana, for sharing that. I'm sure there'll be lots of founders writing that down or it's giving them the boost that they need right now. I guess when you raise a lot of money, it gives you the firepower to go out and hire great talent, which is a topic I'm particularly passionate about. And I know you've built a team of over 60 people that's quite diverse as well, which is something that we really care about. So how did you approach hiring in those early days and how has that sort of evolved over time?
Yeah, so I have to thank Revolut. I learned how to hire and fire at Revolut. When I joined Revolut, there wasn't as a structured process, but then we put together a structured process and I learned so much from it. And I think it's very, very effective. You never get a 100% hit rate, but you can achieve a lot. And we have a very standardized hiring process. So we have like the engineer process and the non-engineer. And we all do a screen call, we do a problem-solving interview, and we do a bar raiser interview for every single person. So from the beginning, because the 4 of us, we were already like certified trained when we were at Revolut. We knew how to run all the interviews. We kept the same process. obviously adapting it to what we're looking for, the skills, obviously you're testing for certain things, but we just ran that and really it's worked really, really well. First, when you're starting, your biggest problem is not how you run the interview, but how can you convince somebody to join you when you have nothing, no license, no product, no customers. So then it's about how you position that and then get somebody that's willing to take the risk. So our really early employees usually are people that we knew, that knew us, because the only people not only, but it tends to be that for people to join a startup and take that risk, it's more likely if they know the founders. It's like, okay, I know you can do this. But if they're like complete strangers, it's hard. It's hard to convince them to join you. That's at the beginning. Now it's different because now there's a product, now there's licenses, now all of that has been mitigated. So then, it's more like, are they good for the role? So we get a lot of inbound now. At the beginning, we were like, please, join, don't worry, execute. Obviously, Revolut name carried, but it was a bit harder. So I think that's really changed. And it's all about risk. Are people willing to take the risk with you? Which is, a big ask as well.
It's also self-selecting, isn't it? If people are in the process and don't show the real levels of conviction or are hesitating about whether they really believe in it, then it's probably an indication that they're not right for these earlier stages. And that's not a bad thing. It's sometimes you don't really know that until you've sort of gone through the process, but it is an important thing to be honest about. I think when you're going through a process, that if you have those feelings, it just maybe isn't right for everyone. I guess you will have seen different challenges when it comes to hiring or building culture, because these things evolve a lot and as you scale, and it is difficult to scale a culture as the dynamics change. New people come in, different stages of business require often different people or different challenges. So I'd love to hear any reflections on the harder parts of hiring or building culture, and I guess what the culture is or how you would codify that or describe that today as we sit here in June 2025.
Yeah, so it does evolve because you get bigger and also we're remote, right? So we have people in Spain, France, Poland, Portugal. So something we do is we bring everybody together once a year in person. Last year we went all to Malaga for like 3-4 days to share, because you need that human interaction. You need to see the person. You need to go have lunch, go have a drink. This is very, very important. The previous year we weren't even live. We took everybody to London. So we tend to do it every year. And that helps a lot to build those connections. We also then locally try and bring them together. So in France, the Paris team or the Spanish team and so on, to create those connections. So that's for people to connect, work better. I think with time, what changes as well is that what you're looking for in terms of commitment, right? At the beginning, you get kind of like the crazy people that are willing to go crazy with you when there's nothing and you can just go, Later on, you need somebody that has built a process, and can help you scale. So it's a bit different as well as roles mature. So that we've also seen how with time is, and I'm sure it will continue to change, right? Then you get more senior people, and it's different. And then the culture at Deblock, we've taken some bits from Revolut, the bits that in terms of execution, definitely. I think it's more just because of our personalities or backgrounds. I mean, I'm from Venezuela, Marius is from Spain, Jean's French, Aaron's American. So we have all these different cultures that kind of mix. The company is a third, probably Latin, Spanish, a bit of French, and then, you have a bit of Polish and so on. So I'd say it's more Latin, a bit more with a bit more flavor, just because of who we are, but ruthless execution. So you kind of marry the two. It's interesting, but it's that's how I'd say we are.
I like it.
Celebrating the small wins. We're really big on that. We're from the bins to the, the first card transaction. We were all together in London, and we had gone with Visa. So the first thing we did is we bought Papa John's pizza. We put it on the big screen. We put the number. I remember the first transaction was this Papa John's pizza we bought. So I think that's a lot of the culture is a lot on that. And then we have kind of a bit of just that crypto, more like the NFTs, like all of our PFPs are like these different NFTs. And there's a lot of like the crypto slang that runs around in the company as well. So yeah, I think those three elements kind of would define Deblock.
Love that. Thank you so much. We're going to come on to talk about being a COO. It's a passion of mine, actually. I I've been placing COOs into startups for over a decade now. I think it's the most interesting role. It's so impactful, so diverse, so different. There's so many different types of COO depending on the company and challenges. So I'd love to know, what does your remit look like as COO? What does that entail? And I'd love to hear your perspectives on why it's such a great role and what you think differentiates a good COO to a truly great one.
Well, so my remit, let's start there. So I look after all of our licensing and regulatory kind of engagement. So I'm the one sitting with the regulator. I'm the one doing all the applications and have compliance reporting into me. So that's one big piece. Then I have on the operations, all support. Also, that team sits under me. So I focus on NPS, time to respond to our customers. Are our customers happy? Yes, no. And then I have all the people elements. So that goes from I run payroll to how issue a contract to what initiatives we can do to make sure employees are happy and engaged. So it goes, I guess those are my kind of big three buckets. As a founder, you do a bit of everything. I also go fundraise. I also go talk to our banking partners. So you do, and as a founder, you do a bit of everything. But those are kind of the broad areas that are under me. I agree with you that I think CEO roles can change in different companies. But ultimately, for me, it all boils down to somebody that's really structured and is able to put in a process in place. Because as you scale, when you're 0 to 1, is a bit, let's just do it, is a bit, rough on the edges. But to really scale, you need to put processes in place that people are able to follow. You need to be flexible about it, adapted, but ultimately it's a process to help you scale the company. And I think a great COO is somebody able to do that in a way adapted to the culture of the company as well. So you can't just impose. You really need it to be kind of organic in whatever format that might be, right? I think that for me is the difference.
Totally, no, it's a really good point. I think to that last point you just made, I think they're often, COOs often have great IQ and EQ and are able to flex their style to different stakeholders, different functions, and sort of get buy-in from different types of people, and ultimately drive through the necessary change or processes, or to sort of, I guess at the end of the day, you're owning the execution of the strategy in many cases. So you got to get everyone to come on board with any changes that are sometimes not always fun to go through following processes, which I guess is another thing with the scaling business. In the scrappy early days, it can be very different, and having to get people to shift the way they work can be, is a real art form actually, and something that we see in amazing CLOs all the time that are really, really skilled at doing that. I would love your thoughts on anyone that's listening to this going, oh, Adriana's role sounds so good. Like, I want to be a COO like her. What advice do you have for them? Is there anything you'd get them to think about? Perhaps they're in an earlier career, perhaps they're in a slightly different functional role at the moment. What can they do to set themselves up for pivoting in that direction? Any tips would be much appreciated.
Yeah. So I think I break it into two parts. So in terms of pivoting roles, I go back to what I was speaking about earlier, which is just take the risk, put yourself forward to that position. I think I see it so many times. People are just so risk averse. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Like really, really, really just go. Even if you're not 100%, like you haven't done it exactly the same, I hadn't built a company before. You just do it. You just kind of problem solve one step at a time. So break the problem in small bits and you can always solve anything. I think in terms of you want to prepare yourself, CO operations is execution. So, for example, when I've seen people struggle going into that kind of operations kind of space, you see it a bit on consultants, not to criticize consultants, but a lot of these management consultant guys that are strategy consultants that they do beautiful slides, articulate, know a lot of information, but get it done. And get it done, I mean, open a bank account. Yeah. Send 25 documents. Yeah. Apostille, send it, run to the post. Yeah. Print it. Yes. This is the job, but get it done. Is your bank account open? Yes. Open a company entity? Yes. In a kind of a smaller scale, but that you can extrapolate to really bigger and bigger things. So it's about execution, getting things done, doing things. And then if you have that strategy background, obviously then it helps you to do the right things, but it all boils down to execution. So make sure you're doing, executing. That shows a lot of value. That helps any company grow. And then the transition is straightforward.
Couldn't agree more. And we have so many people coming to us asking about how to transition from consulting to tech. And I think that's exactly it. It's getting, even if it's outside of work, it's demonstrating entrepreneurial spirit. It is helping a friend that's launching a business, get involved on the operational side, build that muscle, because that is ultimately always the concern with consultants, is that you're just going to be great at slides and really theoretical and super good at problem solving, but actually companies need that, but they need execution more. And they want people to be hands-on, because you could have the greatest strategy in the world. If you can't execute it, there's no point, right? So yeah, I think it's really good call out. Thank you for sharing that. We're getting close to an end, Adriana, but I've got to ask you about your future plans for Deblock. Like, where is the business going in the next 5 years? Tell us a bit more about sort of your dreams and hopes for the future.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to hear that.
No, we want to continue growing. I mean, for us, it's that intersection. That in the future, everyone will be exposed to the chain. Even the big banks, they'll have a position on chain, they'll have a wallet. This is the future. Not because, oh, I hate the banking system. No, it's just because it is more efficient. It's better. Not for everything, but for a lot of things, from cross-border payments to treasury management. And we see it now, right? With the explosion of stable coins. I think the industry's maturing with all the regulation that's coming. It's maturing. So this is where the future is, and we want to build for that future. So that's where we want to go. Right now, we're doing retail. We want to grow that. We haven't thought some business as well. So that's where Deblock's going to go. We want to be at the intersection of those things, because we are convinced. And we were convinced even when FTX blew up. And we're convinced today, and we'll be convinced in 3 years. People go, oh, crypto's back. Well, we've been here all this time. The technology is incredible. So many use cases that pop up all the time. We want to build for that future.
I guess there will be people listening to this that are big into crypto. There'll be some that are skeptical or just, a bit on the fence. And maybe this will be the start of them digging into the industry and the opportunities it will bring. But there's no doubt, whatever side of the fence you are, crypto's been through a lot in the last few years. And I'm sure we'll navigate more choppy and exciting waters. So how do you see the broader industry evolving? And why is now such a great time for founders to be building businesses in Web3 and investors to be investing in this space?
Yeah, I think maturity. So, it's in its infancy. There were a lot of very scammy companies, right? That gave it a really bad reputation. I mean, FTX being one, Celsius, all of this that just showed real weaknesses. But what we said from the beginning is that I think the mistake was to think that crypto was different from traditional finance. Traditional finance has matured and there are rules that govern it. Crypto is no different. It's a different technology, but the principles are the same. It's still money. You're moving money. You're storing wealth. So I think it's naive to think, oh, we have completely different rules. No. It's the same rules. And that's what we apply. You still have capital requirements. You still need to put guardrails. You still need to look for AML. And all of these things are still true. So what we've done, we've taken the same principles, put them there. Not everybody does this. This is true. But as regulation matures, everybody will have to do that. I think the fact that Europe is moving that direction with MiCA, the US with the Genius Act, that will help. And that makes it really exciting, because now you go, okay, same principles. These are my guardrails. Perfect. Now it's a new technology. Why can I do better and cheaper? So many opportunities arise, right? Stable coins is one, right? All the use cases around that. I think more and more things will pop up. So it's really exciting to be in this space, because you go, it's just a completely different new technology in the same principles that I'm applying. Now there's regulation, go. So I encourage everyone to come into this space. It's super, super exciting. Building a company today also with AI is way easier. So honestly, if you're on the fence, I mean, you need to be a bit crazy to be a founder though, but if you're on the fence, do it.
Hey, take the risk, embrace it. Awesome. Thanks, Adriana. Our final two questions I have to ask you, because this is 40-Minute Mentor. I need to know, if you could be mentored by anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Yeah, so there's one person I do follow. I think she's amazing. So the co-founder of Nubank, Cristina Junqueira, I think she's incredible. I think you don't find a lot of female founders that are this successful. The woman's had like 4 children. She manages a massive company. I think she's amazing. So I would pick her because she like
That's a great answer.
is killing it. And she's Latin. So, doesn't get any better.
Yeah, super inspiring. Thank you. And finally, what is one last piece of career advice you would like to leave our listeners with today?
Take the risk.
I love that. We started with take the risk and we're going to end with take the risk.
And this is the only thing. Don't be afraid. Go. You're resilient enough. Do it.
Encouraging, inspiring words to end. Adriana, it's been a real privilege. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me and be on 40-Minute Mentor. Love what you're building and super excited to see how it goes in the future. So wishing you all the very best for that.
Thank you, James. It's been great.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I really hope that you found it useful and inspiring. If we have left any questions unanswered, or if you have any feedback or guest recommendations for future series, then please make sure you get in touch on info@jbmc.co.uk. I often get asked by listeners how you can help us spread the word about 40-Minute Mentor. There are 2 simple ways you can help. Firstly, share this episode on your preferred social media platform, and LinkedIn is probably where I'm most likely to see it. And you can also leave us a review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Every share on social media and review left on the podcast platforms really helps us to get 40-Minute Mentor in front of new audiences and share the power of mentorship even further. Thank you so much for your ongoing support, and I look forward to seeing you again next Wednesday for even more pocket-sized mentorship.